if I can help somebody each day or run into somebody each day and just tell them, life gets in the way, but at the end of the day, you got to figure out how to fix it. And sometimes it's not about fixing it. It's how about dealing with it and moving on so you can do functional stuff for the day.
Welcome to the Kash and Dash Show, episode 338 with Ben Harral.
With one L.
And no D at the end.
Is that what you had?
Yeah.
It's like alphabet soup when Ted is trying to pronounce people's names.
So I don't know if you remember this, but there was an apartment building that we looked at in town off 96 and L.
Oh, yeah.
And it was off market lead. Didn't put everything together at some point there, but it is like we go take a look at the property, and it's your dad, Mark, that owns the property. And the only reason that all got put together is because Randy, your brother, showed up. And I've known Randy since high school. I get talking to Randy, and then we got talking about real estate, and then somehow your name came up in that, and I'm like, holy shit, Ben's been a member of the RIA as far as I can remember, and I never knew you guys are, that was your older brother, and I used to hang out, we used to party a lot, actually, and just to put in that full circle together, but your dad's one of a kind.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I mean, that guy has some pride in that building.
The thing I remember most
he runs
about,
it like a commune.
the thing I remember most about that is he's like, look, it's all old people that live here. They're quiet. They don't like noise, this and that. He's very, very like matter of fact.
Yes.
And then one of the tenants came out in the hallway, if I remember this, and there was like some water on the floor, and he's like, hey, clean that up. She's like, oh yeah, I'll get right on that. I'm like, jeez.
And those hallways were pristine.
I'm like, will you consider managing this still if somebody else buys it? And he's like, no. I was like, okay. But yeah, that was funny.
But that could be up to negotiation, I'm sure, if it hasn't sold yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know either.
Because he lives across the street, right?
No, they actually still live down the street. But yes, the start of the project was for him to live across the street, and he started that house before I even got married.
Okay.
So everybody's had their receptions there the next day. But yes, that is supposed to be their final house. It's a ranch house. So that was their final house.
Is that where you got the itch for everything? Is that your dad was a real estate investor?
So when I was younger, we grew up in Ralston in 91st and Q. My dad worked for a maintenance company when I was younger. That's what I can remember. And the owner of the apartment complex lived around the corner. And so me and Jonathan were the same age. Jonathan's still an investor today and owns lots of apartments too. But that's where everything kind of really started. And then when Dad would get his bonuses, he would get opportunities to buy some of the existing properties that Don Campbell had. So that was how Dad got started, and he started off with 38th and 39th and Dodge.
And how old are you when that happened?
I'm going to say we were 10-ish, probably.
So you
around there.
You definitely grew up around this.
Yes. We grew up around the lifestyle of maintenance phone calls all day long and never home on the weekends and missing sporting events.
Putting you to work?
Yes. We did a lot of work when we were kids.
This is like the Andy Corey story.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did your dad, did he have a Harley or something at one point? Because he looks like a guy that'd be like part of the Hells Angels or something.
No, Dad was just a big guy. He always has been. Actually, his first motorcycle when I was around was a Victory that his boss bought him. Him and his boss went and bought two of them for those bonuses, and that's what Dad had. He still has the bike that I know of. There is also a VW trike that was in our shed our whole entire young career, and then one of his friends actually rebuilt it for him, and then actually ended up passing away. So it's one of those fiberglass trikes. So those are the two bikes Dad has, even though people think he's rough and tough Harley guy. No.
he definitely looks rough and tough. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to get in a bar fight with that guy.
Do you guys ever watch do you ever watch American Pickers?
Oh yeah. I actually reached out to those guys once. We talked about that in the past.
Mike Wolf and I can't remember the other guy's name.
And I think Mike Wolf just died, if not the other
What?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Mike was a skinny guy, the little chubby dude. I can't remember his
One
name.
of them died in the last year.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
R.I.P.
I had a railroad hoarder house The guy,
like railroad signs and signage.
I'm talking like he literally had rail cars that put into his acreage, and every part of his house was something railroad, a piece. And then he had the barns, and it was full of everything to do with trains. And then he filled the railroad cars like a museum. And then he picked up the whole entire Crete, Nebraska train station and had it picked up and delivered. And he has pictures of delivering it and putting it on his property, and put real railroad tracks on his property.
Wow. That'd be a great Airbnb.
And then he needed to sell it, except the house was awful. And then he was dying, and he didn't know, he wanted his kids to take care of it. So I was a big fan of that show. So I called them because he wanted somebody to help him get rid of some stuff. And they're like, yeah, all in. Cause he had a slew of motorcycles and everything in there too.
Yeah.
I have pictures from it. I should show them to you.
Well, yeah, the reason I brought that up was because they would always pull out these like Victory and Indian motorcycles, like the older ones, and that were in kind of rough shape or whatever, and then get them restored or sell them as is or whatever. But yeah, what was it like growing up in a household like that? Was it just normal that you never had a day's rest? Where you watch your dad walk around answering the phone all day, every day for maintenance requests. And did you just grow up with that operating system and say that this is how life is?
Yes, actually I did. I'm from a big family. I'm the middle child of 5. I'm the one that does have a big lengthy record. But with that being said, yes.
Record of success?
Both. My father had... It's complicated, but yes, we grew up with that, and he always took the maintenance calls at nighttime. And you can say, growing up like that, it does take a toll on a family because he's not around. We went on many vacations when we were kids with just mom, and 5 kids. So it stinks, but dad's been able to build what he's built for us. And I understand it now as being an investor, but when I was younger, it did hurt me a lot. Even
you just knew he wasn't home. It wasn't the reason didn't matter. He just wasn't around.
He had no time. And it was always fixing something, and it was always the same thing every day. He'd get home, and he's only within a mile from the properties that he was maintenance or owned at that time, and he would be trying to do dinner, and he's gone right away, and then we'd be back by nighttime. Like, that was a pretty much typical years of that stuff.
Sounds like this really bothered you.
It did bother me. Yeah. I had problems with it, definitely, after graduation and stuff. So
now, okay, so I'm just thinking of, you've got dad not around, and putting yourself in his, I guess, mindset. I know that's not fair to do, but was he doing that for a larger purpose? Like, I'm doing this, I'm working my butt off. Do you know now, did he choose not to have like a third party property manager because he wanted to save the money and he wanted to get out of his career? Or was there any, do you have any idea about that?
I don't know the true facts of it. I feel like it was selfish conversations, if you want to say, but I haven't really had those conversations. I've tried over the years, after definitely being sober for 12 years. I've tried to have those conversations, and they just kind of get diverted. I have feelings about it and what I think, but I feel like it was a person that knew. I mean, I've gone through this myself, just beat the bone, work and grind like you're supporting the family. And then the next thing you know, it's a year down the road, and you're like, where was I this last year? You're not there for the family and stuff. But you do what you got to do. And sometimes the grind takes advantage of all of us. I definitely had the mindset of, work hard, play hard. That's what came with all my troubles, was to play hard. But yes,
I get that, because I think that's something that we talk about a lot on the podcast, but also talk in our networking circles, is that, hey, we do this for the kids and do this for the family and for the time. But then you also see some of us that are like up and getting it going in the beginning, and it's like grind. And then it's like that guilt feeling that you have, because, you're taken away from your kids, you're taken away from your spouse. And I've mentioned this 100 times. I remember I was working for a foundation company, and I was like traveling on the road all the time. It got to a point where, my son was only 3 or 4 at the time, I think. And he wasn't running home to me because I was gone so much.
I mean, you got home and he wasn't running to you?
Yeah. I remember he wasn't excited to see me anymore, as excited, at least as he was before. He was like, Dad. No, he got attached to mom, and,
correct.
And that's kind of, and I'm like, God, is this what I want? And that's when I took that, that change of job and change of everything to get into, I actually working for DBG and working for Mike and Jerry Schlickburn at that time. And it was a big price cut or pay cut, I should say, but it also made it so I could be home and be that, father that was available. And, that I think that's the reason. It was kind of like last week, my daughter hit me up. She goes, "Hey Dad, what things do you want to volunteer for?" Cause I always do I volunteer for all
school stuff.
And I go, "Well, Carson's in middle school. So sign me up for every single thing." She's like, "What?" And she's like, "You're gonna do them all?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do them all anyway. I just always split between you and Carson, but now Carson's in middle school, so just sign me up for everything." You should have seen how excited she was.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But that, but I see the passion in your eyes when you talk about this, and I know that's a lot of our biggest fears. I think there's people that also purposely choose to not be, what's the word I want to use?
Difficult conversations.
That not be present. And then you got the people that maybe want to be present, but they can't be present. But I think that when you want to be present and can't be present, I also think that those people make their family know that. And then there maybe he had other reasons, motives, excuses. I don't know, what that is. But obviously, it took a toll on you and probably the rest of the family too.
Yeah, it did. I've also noticed it in my personal life too. With my family, and I've been married for 15 years.
Congratulations.
Been sober.
Come on, 15 years.
It was over 15. I got to count. But, after 15, it seems like a lot. But, a lot of the early days were too much partying and not being there. But, you don't think about it until the reactions or the damage to the family down the road. We always said, definitely in our beginning of investing is grind hard and you'll be able to eventually stop. Well, I don't know if that's true. I felt like I've got there multiple times, but then every time I get to stop, it just starts piling back up again because you're not working as much or not doing as many deals or finding enough projects or, bidding enough stuff or even making the opportunities to find new clients. It is getting harder and harder, definitely trying to find clients that understand your wealth and what you bring to the table and your knowledge.
I tell you what,
the quality of.
I don't know if that changes because Owen, even at his age, talks about, being pulled multiple directions. And you look at him, a lot of people look at him, I should say, and see the success and all the things that you're doing. But then, you're also still battling, like, hey, I'm taking on all these projects and I still need to make time for, softball and all this stuff. And maybe I'm taking on too much. And I think you're still trying to find that balance even, with everything that you've done.
A couple things. One, the first is I think there's a huge role, it's the whole nature versus nurture thing. It's like, was I born this way or did I just grow up in an environment where this was normal? And then you adopt that same mindset that maybe you were raised in throughout your early adult life. And then you start seeing the consequences of some of those activities or kind of like things that you're doing. Then you have to make tough changes when you get, and it's different for everyone, but it could be in your early 30s. Maybe you have a moment of realization where you're like, is this the person I'm gonna like? Is this who I am? Mm-hmm. And then, but I'm gonna get shout out to my parents because both my mom and dad were entrepreneurs, and I'm very lucky. I will state that because not everybody has this that they can say. But my parents were at like every school activity, every baseball game, all the things, and they were both they own their own business. And my dad and my mom could have worked as much as they wanted and made more money and whatever, but they made time to go. And I didn't recognize that until like way later in life. I think it's like 25 is when you start appreciating your parents a little bit more or recognizing, okay, now your brain is finally fully formed to an extent and maybe damaged by bong water and malted hops. But at some point you start appreciating, at least if you're not appreciating, at least you're appreciating their perspective and what they were going through. But it can be really tough. But I think the whole nature versus nurture thing, you either operate exactly the same way you were raised and that's your mindset, or you hit a moment of realization and you say, this is not who I am or who I want to be. And you start surrounding yourself maybe one person at a time with different people who have a different outlook on life. And you say it doesn't have to be this way. And then there's choices that you make that end up basically stockpiling and compounding interest on the choices you make. And then fast forward 10 years, you're a direct result of the choices you made over that 10-year period. Like there's that's just how it is. But one quick thing, or not, this may not be quick, but I feel it's important because I spent a number of years recruiting for IBM, and the recruiting arm that I was in was for their consulting services business. And they would hire people to work on site at customer locations for long-term projects. So these are 18-month, and they are working Monday through Friday at a customer site in Detroit, Michigan, or somewhere outside of Chicago or wherever. And so they're literally gone all day, every day for 5 days solid. Then they're getting home, maybe saying hi to the family, and then they're taking off Sunday night. Like, that is a very hard life. And I interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those people to hire them. And I'm like, I would go, like, you guys know me by now, like, I go way off script on interviews. So I was just fascinated with that mindset. I'm like, how do you do it? Like, how do you deal with the aftermath and the family? Like, how do you organize your family in a way where that works? It was unfathomable to me. So I got kind of like inside the mind. I got a little bit of a peek behind the curtain with people that just, that's how it was. And that's how it did it. And I was like, that's not me. I don't want to be that way. But yes, to your point, again, Ben, this is your podcast, but like, I just feel this is relevant to what we're talking about here, the family dynamic. And
yes,
I just got to a point where I was like, I still feel like I'm not doing enough at home, and I feel like I'm not doing enough in my businesses.
Correct.
And it's never enough. And I don't think you ever get to a point where you're like, you know what? I'm doing well in everything. Like, you're never going to get there. And I think life would be boring if you did, but I struggle with that all the time. I feel like, God, I missed, I should have done this, or I could have done that. And it's just constantly layering guilt on yourself. And I don't know if that's just a me thing, but I would bet there's a lot of people like that.
I'm going to tell you my side. I feel like I put a lot of time into the family and a lot of time into sports and coaching.
You do.
But at a detriment to my businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think
that's the trade-off.
I think my businesses and the money I'm making is suffering because of the amount of time I'm putting into the family and the sports and the coaching and attending events.
I feel that too, Ted. And I feel like one of these shifts, sorry to jump in.
Will you stop apologizing for jumping in? Just jump in and just own it.
Hey, don't buff me. Don't buff me. But there's something I realized in all of our conversations, and it's very obvious because all of us know it. And it's the fact that we are all owner-operators. We are not actually business owners. We are owner-operators. We don't have employees. Because if it is we had employees, we would have been able to set up systems to eventually replace ourselves, and we would essentially be managers of those employees and only manage the growth of the business. Yes. That's really it, because we grind all the time, and we all know that. But at what point are we going to make that shift from owner-operator to business owner?
I don't think you can get to that point. I'm curious what you guys think about this, but I don't think you can get to that point literally until you built a medium-sized business where you don't have to make decisions all the time.
When you can afford it.
Because you sure you could hire somebody to make those decisions for you, but then you're cutting your income that you pay the bills with in a fraction of what it was before. And then it's then you're starting over again. Then you feel like, oh my God, now I have to do more.
But how many people are we talking to these days are getting AI to start replacing that?
They are, but I don't know, man. I think we hear the highlight reels of that kind of stuff. I don't know.
It could be a fact. It could be a fact.
Ben, what do you think?
I think it all helps with everything that's going on in life. I do know that AI is going to help, but was born in the 80s. Like, AI is still weird to me. Like, trying to learn it, I don't have time to learn it. I'm a hands-on operator owner. Like you were saying, I've done it multiple times. I felt like great things are great. I can spend some more time with the family, and then you start doing that, and then eventually there's less money there, and you're having arguments again with the family because there's not enough funds coming in. There's not enough future there, and you just keep on doing the cycle. And like you were saying, like a bigger operation, a few people, we used to do that with a lot of the projects and have a lot of people, but then, those guys are calling you at nighttime when you're trying to, and they're doing night shift stuff. I've always grew up with having a job and having more work and side work for the longest time. That was where the extra was. And I wish looking at it back now these days, I wish I would have used all that extra money and put it aside for the future instead of enjoying luxuries and, partying all the time and, wasting it on stupid stuff.
Yeah, but sometimes in those situations, I think that I think about that all the time. Like in my 20s, I ran a nightlife company.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, and then I meet somebody that comes in here and they're absolutely killing it. And they got 100 deals by the age of 21, 22. And I'm like, holy shit, right? I wish I was that person. But they had different things that molded them to get to there. That 10 years of my life molded me and made connections and created the person I am today. And the mistakes that you've talked about, I'm sure created the person that you are today, because maybe you had to make those mistakes because of some past stuff. I think we all kind of have these things. I mean, Owen was a partier too, just like I was. And bartender, and that's what we did. But we're all sitting here at the table right now, right? And we're doing good things. We're making strides. We're trying to be better than our parents. Good parents or bad parents, we're trying to be better than them, right?
Oh, yes.
And so in the end, those mistakes made you who you are, and owning those mistakes and also letting people know about those mistakes, I think grows you.
Yes. Some people don't know that we've had to pull away from our immediate family. There was just, every time we would be around, it was just toxic. It was very toxic, and, we had to pull away. We had to save our own family, if you want to say, and we're getting to that point again of looking at it and going, did we do the right things? Did we, push too many people away in life to get where we're at? I can't say that I have a huge bank account. I can say I have some properties and I am able to wake up tomorrow and try to strive again for something new. Our addictions get in our way tremendously. Or, just our immediate stuff, or what needs to be done today, or what comes out today of the different things that everybody's looking at. And I love sitting down and conversating about life and where we've been and what's gone through and what's the next steps, and trying to find that next step to be able to walk away. I don't know. I mean, we've all had partners. We've all had bad partners. We've all had good partners. I
think Ted's had bad partners only.
That's not true. I've had some good partners, but I look at the partners as like people you dated. You got to take the best part of them and the worst part of them, and then the next person you date or next person that you partner with, you got to make sure that they have those qualities. Correct. Or don't have those qualities.
Don't have those qualities.
Both, though, because if you don't take a positive from each one also, then that was a waste of your time. So you got to take a positive and negative from each person that you've worked with. And then if it's a partnership in this situation, then you got to make sure that next partner does or doesn't have those qualities. So that way you can find the right one.
Hey, we didn't plan obviously on harping on this topic for so long, but I think it's really interesting because, what do you guys think about this? So, you hear it drilled on Business Bro podcasts and reels that we get fed constantly in the algorithm that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, et cetera. So, people that, and the crabs in the bucket theory says that the minute you start surpassing someone else's success, they're going to start rooting against you and try to pull you down back to their level. And I've gone through periods of time in my life where I've had people that were my ride or die that I knew I could rely on. Maybe they were in my wedding, et cetera, that they're not really in my life much anymore. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys have probably both gone through that. You being in the nightlife industry, it's hard to have a family and still do those, same things.
No, but I still have some really core friends from then.
Yeah. But I guess I know what my approach is. I certainly don't think it's necessarily the right one, but if you're trying to improve yourself, how do you approach that conversation with people that you realize that it's a detriment to your well-being and goals to still spend time with them? Like how do you guys go about that?
I feel like when we're getting older, we have to figure out what's good for the rest of the family. Mm-hmm. Relationships with people that the rest of the family can hang out with is like different these days than when we were younger. We're looking for that all-inclusive. We can bring the kids around and everybody's there to help each other. Like when we were younger, like we grew up, in the 70s and 80s and your neighbors helped you. Today it's very hard to have a neighbor that's trying to help anymore. Mm-hmm. That's the different lifestyle of just in our world has changed that much.
I don't know. I also think it's the person you are. Like, I make it a point to talk to all my neighbors, block, up and down the block. I've dropped off pies. I've dropped off pumpkins to those people. Our kids play together when we get new ones move in. There's a couple people I don't know, and I think because they're antisocial. But I help my direct neighbors and all around me with their yards or trash, whatever it is. And I think it all depends on how outgoing you are. But I think everybody still wants that community feeling.
Yeah.
And then on the aspect of what you're asking and the 5 people around you, like I love that soundbite. And I think it sounds really good and it made a lot of sense to me the first million times I heard it. But because
the average of the 5 people, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, and I love it. And I really thought about that hard. But I also think that if you have a corporate group of people and they're around you, you guys will lift each other up. And if as long as they're supportive, those people will grow with you. I have some core friends I've had since high school and even middle school. They're still in my life. Those are the people that I can say anything to, things I wouldn't tell anybody else to. Those are the people that are there at my kids' games. Because I although I have some great friends in the investor group, but I've never seen, and I consider Owen one of my best friends, but we've never seen each other at either of our kids' sports.
Yeah.
But so those core people are, a different level of friendship, but I'm all seeing us all grow simultaneously. And, and I think that's kind of fun and exciting. But my new friends that I've made over the last decade, let's say,
yeah,
I have some great people and great friends but those people are more like the people I like to go out with date nights or, go drinking with on occasion, but I think everything can happen in moderation. Where my core friends, we used to hang out every single weekend, do wrist nights and, and smoke a cigar and whatnot, but things just change. And I think that you still have to go back to the roots and bring those people in a different capacity. And each person's different. Maybe you don't have new friends and those core friends all you got, but I think in the end, all it's important is you have friends that you could call if you broke down. And I could call my new friends or my old friends if my car broke down or I needed help, and they would be there for me as I would be for them. And if I can look at somebody and say that, then I feel like they're a good person.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. I feel like to answer that question from my perspective, I feel like there's twofold. To piggyback on what Ted was saying, if you look at the crab in the bucket philosophy and your 5 core people are actually trying to pull you down, then it says a lot about them and it makes you have to reevaluate, are they really the 5 people that you want to continue with? And that's where you have to make the tough decision of like, yeah, I'm going to cut it clean. Because if they really were your core people or if they really were your closest 5 people, then they would aspire to be like you if you are outgrowing their quote unquote class. And they'll be asking you questions about what have you done different that, you're shining differently now. You seem to be glowing and growing too. So like, what's your secret? They'll be interested in growing with you, as Ted say. And if it is they're not, then I think it's time that you wash your hands. And
I don't agree with that. What if they're a great person, but they're comfortable doing, working for whatever job? Like, who cares what they do as long as that person's respectful and that person is looking out for my best interest and that person doesn't bring me down. If they make me smile, they make my family happy and they're there for me, that's all I care about. I don't care if they grow. It's not up to them.
Well, yeah. But Dennis, I think
he missed it. He missed it.
I missed it. Okay,
yeah. He's saying for people that are like the people that like, if you're like, hey, I'm taking classes or I'm like, I want to do this or I want to start this business. And if you get constant shade from,
screw them.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, screw them. I'm totally the same about that.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I've had to cut some core people. I have a really close friend for literally the longest person I've known in my life. Our parents are best friends and great person, great sense of humor, but always battled drinking issues.
Yes.
And he went through sobriety and, he was successful, but had married a woman that, got him on tons of different drugs. And then she left him broken. And he went from a successful business owner with the best personality, still does to this day. I'll give him that props. But he also became a massive meth addict. And I just saw him on my doorbell camera at my Airbnb last week because he's homeless. And he was charging his phone up at my Airbnb on the front stoop at midnight on a Saturday. He's like, "Hey Ted,"
What?
He's like, "Hey Ted, sorry man, I'm just gonna charge my phone real quick."
So
And
he knew it was yours.
yeah, because I've loaned him some stuff, equipment. That's a family home.
Oh, that one. Sorry.
And I really, I hope if he ever gets sober, I will be the open arms to love to have that guy back in my life.
Yes.
Because that guy's got the best personality ever, and I would love to see him get back on his feet. But at this point right now, I can't have him in my house, and I can't help him anymore. He needs to help himself, and if he's listening to this, I hope you do get help, and I hope you get this figured out for your kids. And he might be listening to this because that's the type of guy he is. But I did an intervention, brought his mom, call his mom, call his dad, but his mom's got her own problems too.
Yeah.
And I just hope, that person picks himself up. But I can't be the person to do it, and I can't put any more brain capacity. I've had too many friends going through addiction problems, and there's only so much you can do. And at some point, I feel like that person has to hit rock bottom to be able to lift himself up. You've gone through some of that. Like, what's the best way to go at it?
So I can say through my experiences, they were really rough. A lot of times I thought I hit rock bottom, and I didn't hit rock bottom in partying and drinking. I was always the guy that thought I was successful, if you want to say, great jobs, extra money, doing that kind of stuff, think you're successful and enjoying life. And then, court systems, family. I mean, I know my parents tried the best they could. I was a pretty stubborn person and pissed off at the world. I had some opportunities when I was younger. I also have really bad ADD and HDD and all that. So I was on meds when we were younger. So back in the 80s, those meds were really strong. We would be zombies. I didn't want to be a zombie anymore. I found alcohol would suppress. So when my high school years, I take a medicine, and by lunchtime I'm drinking in the parking lot. It started off pretty bad and quick because we figured out alcohol worked better than my prescription drugs, and my young days were horrible. I mean, things have really changed dramatically these days. I had the opportunity through one of my injuries. I had the opportunity to go back to college. This was probably about 6-7 years ago. We also built our personal house at that same time. So I got the opportunity to build our own personal house that we live in now. And when I went back to college, I went back for drug and alcohol counseling. I have a few things left to go. Yes. Well, it was a struggle because at that time I was working for J.E. Dunn, and I was with the union carpenters at that time, and I hurt my back, did a bunch of lower back problems with it, and I got the opportunity to work for are able to use a system that's in that realm of after accidents, and they help you try to figure out what the next step is. Well, my thing's always been mechanical. My thing's always been my hands. When I was younger, I loved cars. I had scholarships to Milford. I never showed up. We had some difficult conversations back then, and that really skewed a lot of what happened for years down the road. So that was one thing that was really irritated at that time. So that was back in 2001. I came to my family and I said, hey, I need a little help. I'm going to Milford. There's no jobs. If anybody knows where Milford is, back in early 2000,
outside
it's
Lincoln,
far
right?
away from Lincoln.
Yeah.
You had to drive 30 minutes to get a job. And I said, I don't know how to do this. I don't have much money in the bank account. And I got told, I'm sorry, you wasted it with all the stupid shit you did in life. And that was a gut punch, but it also put me down a rabbit hole. I wish, anybody that's out there now that's struggling, I hope you figure out whatever your child's trying to ask you, that you step up and help, definitely with school. And
yeah, I know that there's probably a lot of parents that are dealing with this, or people going through this, and especially with your background in counseling and stuff. I mean, I guess in the situation too, when you got friends or stuff, how do you support those people properly?
It's very hard, but I sit back and I love helping people on a daily basis. I'll find people randomly all day long somewhere and sit with them, talk with them, encourage them to do something different. It's very hard sometimes knowing that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay to not have all the answers. You know, sometimes those people just need something. Like I can think of a random conversation the other day at a gas station in Lincoln, headed back from York, after visiting the factory in Champion and Homes. And this dark-skinned brother was talking about just struggling. And I said, hey, man, how much time did you do? And he looked at me, he goes, how'd you know? And I said, I can read it. I can read it. You know, after doing time myself in the prison system and in the court systems and stuff, I can tell and understand and have conversations with people. And it was probably one of those conversations he needed, because he was lost in resources, but he's been out for some years and he came from a different state, but he didn't realize that, you know, we have those same systems here in Nebraska that can help you in the situation he was in.
So you randomly saw this guy at a gas station or something?
Yeah.
And
he was trying to scrimp some money together for some cigarettes, you know, and he,
and you just took some time with him?
Yeah. We actually sat there and prayed in the parking lot and the whole nine.
You think you were able to?
Oh yeah. Cause he forgot all about it. He
Yeah.
forgot because he came, I can't remember what state it was at this time, but he came from a different state and did prison time like 10 years. And I've had friends in that system that's done the same thing, but he didn't realize that there's those programs to help get you back on your feet are in Nebraska too. He thought he had to, you know, only use the state that he came from. And I said, no, man, those programs are to help anybody that's having problems coming out of prison, jail, you name it. If it was 30 days, 10 days, I mean, there's programs out there to help you. You know, Metro Community College has them. There's a reentry program in Metro that is tremendous. I didn't get the opportunity to go through it, but I was able to learn about it when I was at the drug and alcohol counseling degree that I was working on. So there's a huge reentry program in Metro Community College, and they help with the college. They help you in your personal life. They'll help you with, you know, housing. You know, it's a big one for a lot of people that get out. And
kind of like Oxford Homes.
Yeah, like the Oxford Homes and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of grants and stuff that they have opportunities to get to. And then, you know, it's just life changes. And, you know, like you were saying, core group of friends and stuff. Well, a lot of us had the core group of friends that we got in a lot of trouble with. You know, I grew up on 91st and 91st and Q. And actually that street turned into a gang that went into prison and started running prison. It was called Click Life. You know, it was one of the white supremacist groups out of the prison system in the early 2000s. So I've seen it, been there, and I don't want to do it again. I'll tell you that. I don't want to do it again. But if I can help somebody each day or run into somebody each day and just tell them, you know, life gets in the way, but at the end of the day, you got to figure out how to fix it. And sometimes it's not about fixing it. It's how about dealing with it and moving on so you can do functional stuff for the day. With some of my addictions and the stuff I go through on a daily basis, there's days I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do it.
Even after 12 years?
Even after 12 years, I don't want to do it.
I just figured after 12 years, it was like that. A lot of that went away.
No, I mean,
to be honest with you, I just figured, it's been 12 years. That's a lifetime.
Yeah, it's been 12 years.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lifetime, but I mean, like the problems that I've dealt with in the last couple of years with different partners or different stuff I bought or investments or just business alone, you know, just the snowball of problems that stress,
yeah.
You know, the stress that you put on your family trying to get to the next adventure, you know, trying to put away stuff or, you know, build a portfolio. You know, I've had to restart in all those categories, probably, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 24 times in the last 12 years. I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again right now, just rebuilding again, trying to start back over, find the right people that you can be partners with. And, you know, I'm only one person. I can only lift so much and do so many projects that in a day, you know, I can only fix so many properties, you know, like Owens had some great abilities to buy apartments and find the right people. I just never been able to find the right guy that says, I know what you can do, but
how can somebody can maximize your talents?
Maximize my talents, but also be able to let me go home at 6 o'clock. I'm okay coming in once in a while on the weekends or, something like that. But, that 6 o'clock, I want to be home. I want to, if I'm not present, and you know how it is owning a business, there's a lot of times you got to do invoices at nighttime. So you're not really present. You try to be present until the kids go to bed, and then, you start.
Then you're working nonstop.
You're working again.
And then your spouse or your significant other, you're ignoring them during the time that you're trying to catch up, and then you wake up early to try, and then you're burning the candle at both ends, and you got 4 hours of sleep a night for the last several weeks, and it's hard. This cannot be easy to talk about, and I appreciate you sharing your story with us, because I guarantee you, if somebody catching this episode is relating to you very hard right now.
To another level.
Well, in most hero stories, there's a valley, and then you kind of come out of it. You mentioned 12 years being sober. Do you mind talking or sharing about the time when you officially hit rock bottom and you made the decision and said, I'm done. This is not me.
Yeah. So it was a little different for me. I, probably had, I don't know, I think I had like 2 or 3 DUIs before I was 21. I was able to be in bars before, I was 21 because I had friends that were older. And if you owned the bar and you walked in like you were old enough, they didn't really question you, So I was in that kind of stuff. And then I met my wife, and things kind of changed a little bit after I had my son. And so some years after I had my son, Tristan, things changed. I kind of saw some results, but I didn't change a lot of things. I still partied, but I kind of like tried to figure out how to still balance my problem. And then it eventually just gotten too big. And then I got another DUI, and then that sent me to prison. So, I mean, in my early sobriety, if you want to say, or the early problems I had, I went to different treatment programs. I went to different spots. I did those different things, and it didn't really, I don't know. I don't think I was ready to start a real life yet. I don't think I was ready to do it, which is what I try to tell people, that when you're not ready, it kind of, you can get forced to it. Like the system can force it. You can get enough time under, and maybe you will be able to grasp it. But like, even when I went to prison for my DUI, I still did not want to, I don't know. I wanted to change, but I didn't walk into prison going, yes, we're going to change tomorrow. I mean, it was probably in the middle of programs, because they kind of said, hey, we'll put you on work release, like you're on the mild side. So I went to work release right away. So I thought I was going to, sail out and not have to be in the system, and work release. But I eventually had to go back to LCC. I was in LCC, went back to OCC and had to do programs.
Omaha Country Club?
Yes, the Omaha Country Club down by the airport. The Omaha prison system. So I was, at this time, I will tell you, I'm grateful for it. There was a lot of change. One of the first people I saw when I walked into the door was a gentleman from our neighborhood, 91st and Q. That gentleman used to run the prison system, and him and the other guys that were leaders of the prison system, I'm talking shot callers and stuff like that, eventually had.
You're not like talking about running the prison system like they're like leaders of the prison. You're talking about like they're running the back end. They're inmates.
They're inmates. Yes. Sorry. They are inmates, and they are running the yard. They are running the businesses that are going on in different.
The prison economy.
Yes, the prison economy, the gangs, if you want to say, the gangs. And
they're picking up the drone packages.
Yes, picking up the drone packages. The tennis balls that get thrown over the prison wall. Those type of things. And one of them was a big guy. His name is Matt Rue, and Matt and his buddies were actually on the news they were one of the people back in the early days that slipped bracelets off of each other and got out of prison or got out of the county. And he led them on wild goose chases throughout the town.
Oh, he escaped prison?
No, jail.
Okay.
Jail. That was before like you had to really do a lot of stuff. So you had your bracelet and you could slip it off and trade somebody. One of the friends in the group that got caught, they tried bracelets and the guards didn't check them that well when they left. So yeah, he was able to be let free on somebody else's bond, if you want to say, on accident from Douglas County. But like that same group, he had like only like a year or two sentence for that, a couple years, and then they went to LCC and went to the yard. That's when they started running the jail system, or the inside inmate system, if you want to say. But that was one of the scariest conversations I had to have, because I saw him right away, and I'm like, you
recognized him? He knew you. You knew him.
He deadlocked.
Yeah.
Deadlocked. I mean, within 2 minutes walking into the prison yard.
He had eyes on you, huh?
Yeah. Like I ran into him right away in the treatment housing. So like they have a couple buildings and they're all kind of different housing. One of them's like kitchen and like that kind of stuff. And then like one of them's different treatment programs. And that's where the drug and alcohol counseling housing was. And he was actually one of the mentors in that program. And like,
but taking the tennis balls and then feeding you to take the edge off.
No, not like that anymore.
Oh.
I mean, they truly changed their lives, and they had to change their lives.
Well, I thought when you say he was running yard, he was like running the gangs. So.
Yes, he was running the gangs back then, but not at that time when I went in.
Got it.
He did do some years of good upkeep.
I'm on the other end because you said locked eyes. I'm like, oh shit! Like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah, I was like, was there shanks involved? Like, I don't.
Okay. No, nothing like that. It was just I knew of the guys that were still in the prison system from our, high school and stuff. Yeah. And I knew that I did not want to be involved in it. I didn't want to have everybody thinks prison, you got to have that guy that's going to help you beat the shit out of somebody. I mean, it's a respect issue. It's truly what it comes down to. If you respect people, they will respect you back. You do good things, you'll be fine. But when you start doing dumb stuff, it makes a different world.
All right. So all I know is HBO's version of what happens when you go to prison. Did you go in and immediately look for the biggest guy and and you thought you had to kick his ass? Is that a thing? Or were you just scared out of your mind when you went in? Like, what were your thoughts going through your head when you entered the yard for the first time?
So I was more fearful of not knowing what my family had to do. I mean, I could only talk to my children and my wife 1 15-minute phone call a day. That's it. That's all I got. And it took a while to get that approval to even get there. I mean, it was probably a couple days until the phones knew who they were calling and it wasn't drug conversations and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it took like 30, 45 days before my wife and my children at that time, which were all three of them. Lexi was a baby. She literally was born in November and I went in the next following March. So
you're riddled with guilt.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was so guilty that I disappeared before I went to my prison sentence and just ran amok of everything I was doing because I was ashamed of everything I did and what I destroyed and what I caused a woman that shouldn't deserve it. I mean, my wife is actually, a lot of people don't know this, but my wife actually used to own Lincoln nightlife during the time Ted owned Omaha nightlife.
Really?
Laura Sabota was her name.
Interesting.
And yes, so she
did she work with Nick Fitch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Nick was DJ.
Yeah.
So Nick was actually my DJ at my
in some way.
No, I went down there and did sales and stuff. So
no, Nick was actually our DJ at our wedding. But when my wife left Lincoln, she was looking for a change. And when I met her, I thought I found the party girl that was going to stay with me. Instead, it changed a lot of things. It helped me get to a different spot, but it did take me some time. And then, some of the things went on and you revert and then you get in trouble.
Okay.
So,
Let me ask you this, Ben. Okay. So you first enter prison, you got caught, you went away, you're starting to deal with the aftermath of that, which is guilt and, shame, like you mentioned, and all the emotions that go with it. Like, when did you hit a point of acceptance where you're like, wow, I really need to change some things about me? And it's not like how long till I can get out of here? Or like, this sucks, but I'll just deal with it and then I'll get out.
Sounds like it was the day before.
You could say it like that. Actually, wouldn't accept things, and I honestly broke my femur when I was out on a Hell's Angel poker run. Yeah,
that's a pretty painful bone to break, I would imagine.
Yes. It was a crazy evening. We were leaving.
Good stories start.
Leaving bottoms up, and my sister and her now husband and my brother was with us, and we ran up the street to drop off some of the coke to some friends, and my brother ran off the road. And anybody knows South Omaha on Q Street where the football field is, coming from over the bridge of Council Bluffs, my brother got sent right underneath the railing. And I know
that bridge.
Yes. So right where the hill is that comes down next to the
Bridge.
No, the hill,
opposite side.
No, coming up farther.
Okay.
Come up more by the interstate and the fire trucks. But there's that high school football field that's like by itself, and you're like, where's the school?
South High School.
Yes, I think it's South. So there's underneath the guardrail right there on that curve is where my brother slid underneath it after he went off the road. And I had to leave my brother there and get out of there. And it started a lot of things that night. Yes, we had drugs on us, of course, but I had to leave. I knew he was okay, but I had to leave and I had to get out of there. I was out on bail. I had probably enough stuff in my system to knock a horse out. I was a very functional alcoholic. I functioned very well. I mean, I did a lot of renovations at nighttime, like I drank and functioned and made money all at the same time. That, during that time, it got worse because then the painkillers got involved, with broken femur. I had my daughter, my youngest daughter, Lexi, in November. And then I was able to, have my little girl with me a lot because I was able to be on the couch at that time. At that time we were doing a separation with my wife while she's pregnant, before she was born. There was a lot of rock bottoms and they all came very fast. I knew I needed to change. I just didn't know how, because it was always ingrained in my brain. Work hard, play hard, enjoy life. That's what the reality is. But a lot of us, and even a lot of the successful people, they'll figure out eventually that their drinking and their partying or their friends group starts ruining your life at your house. And it takes a lot of us hard times to figure it out and understand it or comprehend it while there's still new stuff going on or able to fix it. That's what happens with a lot of marriages. They don't know how to fix it, so they just sign the papers and move on. And it's hard for all of us. I mean, I can tell you right now, me and the wife are going through another struggle, because of a lot of financial problems that we've had in the last couple of years with partners that have hurt us. And it never ends. Just because you're sober doesn't mean it's
the rainbows
and sunshines every day. I wish it's like that, but like Ted's got a car wash that really has a lot of problems, but we all know that. But it's like that. I have the same problems, and when stuff hits the fan, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things all at the same time, and they're like big things that cannot just be done today. Like we want it done like within a week or something, and a lot of those things take weeks or months or whatever we got going on. Court systems, lawsuits, projects that are just the ending. The nightmare project that all your contractors never want to show up. because you're the last
Yeah.
guy to get work
Yep.
done. We've all had those projects before, or you go open up the wall and there's more work and you got to figure it out, With that being said, our life these days with our family are hard to balance, definitely with what we have going on and what we've been through. So
I had this, this is a weird segue. I'll acknowledge that. But my freshman year in college, I was on the baseball team, and I was a pitcher, and they ran us to death. And it was like cardio was, they want you to last as long as you possibly can in the game.
Yeah.
And so our coach would just run us constantly. I was not used to that kind of cardio. And I remember I was on probably my second lap of endless amount of laps that I was going to have to do. And I had this moment where I was running, and I remember just being miserable and like dying and gasping for breath. And I remember thinking, when I'm done with this running that I'm doing right now, 5 minutes later, I'm not even going to think about it. Like it's going to be over. And I remember I don't know why that happened, but I specifically remember that moment. It was like a light bulb moment for me. And I remember the bad times 5 minutes after they're over are in the past.
Yeah.
And I grabbed onto that throughout the endless cardio that we had to do as kind of like a shining light, like this too shall pass. And
Yes.
the hard times come at times when you don't feel like you can handle it all, but you're still here. You're still vertical.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you're still dealing with stuff. It feels like it's an endless barrage, but man, huge kudos to you, because my good Lord, I mean, like all the stuff that you've just talked about for, the last hour we've been talking about this are things that I've never dealt with. And you're still going to RIA events. We're still, we know a lot of the same people.
Oh yeah.
And we've spent a lot of time talking about things that haven't gone all that well, but 12 years of sobriety is no small feat.
No.
I know that from having friends that have gone through exactly what you're talking about in different flavors, right?
I did 7.
I
did 7 months of no drinking, and I thought that was pretty difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yes.
so I want to pay homage to you for the fact that you are still upright. You're still, you have family on your mind, and you had a tremendous amount of struggles. You fought your way through some personal demons. I know it's not an easy road, and everybody, it's all relative, right? Everybody feels like they're the first person character in everybody's story, but we're all NPCs, and your life, my life, it's all relative, right? But let's talk about when you got out, when you started getting, some traction, and, you grew up in a family of real estate investors.
Yes.
To the detriment of maybe, not having a father figure around to, be present. Even when he was president, I don't want to put my words in your mouth, but it didn't sound like he was always kind of like preoccupied with other things. So you've taken some strides there and done some things to rectify, your own life. Here's where I'm going with this. I have 3 things written down, and these are businesses. So Big Dreams Rentals, Safe Exit Egress, right? Is that the name?
Safe Exit Egress Window Company.
Yep. Bloom Custom Builders.
Yes.
So let's talk about how you leveraged, all these struggles that you went through. You started several different businesses with a lot of it on your own. And
Yes.
dude, a lot of people would just be barely getting by and couch surfing, doing things like that. Like when you've been in and out of the prison system and rehab and things like that. Like, how do you do this? How did you learn how to, come out of this and say, you know what, I want something better. I want to make something for myself and my family. What was the next step for you?
So it was probably 2 years or so before I went to prison is when I started doing lots. Well, it was before then, but that was when the pivot point probably was with real estate for me. So about 14, 15 years ago. So that's when I was doing a lot of projects for people in the evenings and still working a full-time job in construction. So that's when I was like, look, that's when flips were actually making money.
Yeah.
When you could actually make money. So I did some not so good things to get my first partner, but it had helped me change a lot of things. My first flip was the worst flip I've ever done on my own. Ryan Basie helped me with that. I bought it through him. It was in Benson. It was a little 2-bedroom right off about 65th and Pratt. So I think it's like 62nd and Pratt. The house is still there, but it was probably the worst thing I did at that time because everybody was like, oh, just do anything and everything and cosmetically hit it and you should be fine. I was so bad with my addiction that I knew every dollar that I spent in the house, I couldn't party. So I went to the rerun store and bought like the cheapest tile.
And how long was this?
This is when I first got into the real estate investment world.
And how many years ago?
About 15-ish, 16, somewhere in there.
Okay. Wow.
So it was a couple of years before I went to prison.
Okay.
And then that's when I broke my femur was actually when I was doing the flip that I bought from Ryan Basie. And ended to be, he had to buy it back. We were about halfway done. I had, the 2-bedroom house, upstairs, kitchen. It was a mold house. But the one thing I saw when he showed me was, he goes, look at it again. And I said, this is a stucco concrete lath house. And some people don't know, but that's concrete. So mold that goes on concrete is the easiest thing to do because you can clean it. You can preserve it. You can kills it. You can oil kills it. You can do everything besides have to spend the $10,000-$20,000 to do all the drywall. And that's what everybody looked at it. That was one of the first house lessons that I learned right away because I knew, with my dad's background, it's a little different, but a lot of people think that I got kicked out of school a lot for just because I was a bad guy or did stupid shit. But reality, now looking at it, I got kicked out of school so I could hang out with my father. I learned a lot of things by sitting in that apartment or that property that my dad's repairing and was able to learn by watching. And as soon as I was old enough in life to be able to use my hands to do it, I was that person, It was before all the social media and all the internet. So you just had to read or watch somebody. That's what we grew up with when we were younger. Mm-hmm. You had to watch somebody. So I was able to watch my father repair, remodel, do those type of things my whole entire life. So when I was able to finally do it, I wasn't ready for it. Like I said, I broke my femur and was on my way to prison during my first flip.
Oof. Yeah, that's rough.
My first flip. It was halfway done. Ryan bailed me out. And I thank him all the time for it. And that was like our start of our relationship. I was introduced from Ryan Basie from another good friend from high school. His name is Danny Baber. He owns the gutter truck and a TDG exterior. I think I get confused of the letters, but he introduced me to Ryan because he was like, you got to find a realtor that knows the comps. I met other realtors and they just didn't know the market. They knew how to sell a house, but they didn't know how to sell you what it should be and get you the right numbers so you can make money.
Yeah.
That was the start of my flipping, if you want to say, in my relationship with Ryan Basie, which ended up into years of relationship. We did lots of projects together. I bought lots of flips from him all in the last, 8-9 years. Mm-hmm. And so we have had to separate ways because of things that have gone recently in the last year go wrong. But, I still believed in Ryan as a father figure to me. I know it sounds crazy, but I didn't have many. Mm-hmm. Another father figure to me was my wife's best friend since college, husband. He was a little older than all of us, but his wisdom and his, he used to call me he didn't want nothing to do with me when I first came into the life with my wife, and now we still talk and we still, do good things and he can help me with things that are going on instead of thinking I'm just that guy that wanted to party and be not a family person. So
Yeah. Okay. So how did the egress window company come into existence?
So the egress window business came to existence because all the real estate investors were around in Ryan's circle, and they were all asking for different things because they found out that I'm a guy that can do high end quality of everything. I just am been that person that, I had to change my mindset from my first junk flip.
The restore tile.
The restore tile. I think I paid like 25 cents, a 12 by 12, like that kind of stuff.
As long as it looks pretty.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I'll tell you that right now. Ryan did keep that property until about a couple years ago when the market did go extreme after COVID. He did finally sell it, and it still looked the same. We never remodeled it again besides some paint. But yes, the egress window business was because all the investors were like found out who I was as a person, and Ryan's like, this guy can do anything for you. And so that's when I was like, well, I need another business. So I started doing egress windows. I started off with lower quality windows, and eventually I figured out that just because I can get them at the local hardware store for a decent dollar amount wasn't what you needed to put into every house. Mm-hmm. And so now that's led me to the window that I use today. It is a European tilt and turn window. Most people don't understand what a European tilt and turn window is, but if you Google it, it's a window that opens to the inside of the house. And with that being said, you get to use the whole entire well to help people get in and out of, or, rescue or a firefighter or a neighbor can crawl into that well and be able to get you out of there. Actually have that capacity in that room inside that well, because a normal window will take up half of that well. And then you're always looking for a lock, or you're looking for the crank. Well, this is
you're saying they open outward. Most
windows open outward. Yes. Yep. Into the well.
Yep. So if you have, say, a 14-year-old daughter that you're worried about that is in a basement with a basement bedroom, that you don't want escaping and sneaking out to go hang out with her friends. I'm just looking ahead in the future here. Maybe you want to go with the one that opens outward.
No, this one opens to the inside of the house.
Yeah.
With that being said, there's lots of advantages. I mean, it's got 4 locks on it. Every side's got a lock.
Does Owen know the kids are already stinking out of the house?
Yeah, no, I know. We're not going to tell him that because he's not going to sleep well tonight.
In denial.
Get a security system. Okay, sensors on the window.
I'm curious though, Ben. So okay, real talk. Real estate investors, I've known for a while, like you'll see, okay, this is a very common build style. In the 1980s, they started in the 70s, and then it continued in the 80s, and there were some in the 90s, but split levels were very popular for a period of time. And a lot of them have a main level, like you walk in and you go up the steps, and then there's 2 bedrooms on the main. A lot of times they'll have an unfinished basement, or maybe it's finished, but it's a non-conforming bedroom. You see these a lot in kind of the post-war era when they started cranking out houses in the 50s, 60s. And I guess it goes back that far. And then 70s and 80s. So split levels, you can very easily throw a conforming bedroom down there, but you have to have an egress window. And a lot of the builders back then didn't do that.
You're correct. And then also a lot of things that people don't know is the new code for the city of Omaha got changed a couple years ago. I think it's like 16 or 18 months now. If you refinish your basement and there's no egress window or a bedroom down there, you still have to put an egress window.
Oh, is that right?
There.
I didn't know that.
So Yes.
Okay, so now fact check me on this. I believe that a firefighter has to be able to get through a window with full gear on, and the diameter, or the width times height, or no, maybe it's across. Don't quote me on this. I'm obviously not an expert, but it has to be 5.7 square feet.
Yes, it's the easiest way to say it.
Yeah, and a lot of times casement windows are the way to go, which I'm not familiar with the European tilt-a-whirl. I can't remember. Tilt and turn style window. But that was always my thing, is like, if I can add an extra bedroom, like a conforming bedroom in the basement, adds a crap ton of value, right?
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So for now, let's say, and I know this is going to be highly variable. Can you give me a range of what it would cost for me as an investor?
Yeah, like what's your pitch when you go
like
sell it?
what could I add an egress window, a good one, or maybe let's just go low and high. Like what's the range? What's that cost?
There is a lot of people in my industry that are doing it on very cheap for investors, but they're just trying to do the basic bare minimum of what city code is. And city code says 6 inches of rock below the window. So with that being said, we have groundwater problems in Omaha and surrounding areas. So if you get a bunch of groundwater in there, the water can't get down. I've also gone to houses just in the last couple weeks that their whole entire well is filled and they still had a cover on it the whole entire time. It's just groundwater loves Omaha. And so I go above and beyond on every build, no matter what. I believe in not having problems down the future. Yep. So I dig all the way down to the drain tile. And if there ain't drain tile, I make a drain tile / like a leach field, like you would on a septic system. Yep. Yes. So that's what I do every time. Back in my days, I did learn the hard way. I had some basements flood. I had some customers that I just
had callbacks.
Yes.
I at one point I was working for Thrasher, and I was selling the egress windows for the company when he first started, before they did the leach thing that you're talking about, and before they started tying into the drain system. And I remember I went to this lady's house, and she's like, "Yeah, it was thunderstorming out," and she sent me this picture, and there's literally a waterfall coming out of the window.
Oh.
Yep.
Into their brand new house.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Into the brand new finished house with like 3 bedrooms in the basement. You know, beautiful home. And she's like, you know what? And I'm the one going through, I'm going through cancer. So I didn't have hair. So I whipped off my wig and I jumped right and her spirit was amazing. And she's like, I jumped right in there and I started bucketing it out. Like she jumped in the water while there's lightning and tornado. She's like, bucketing it out, getting it out of there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, she cracked me up. And I ended up having to go back there down the road. And I'm like, your story was so fun and your spirit's amazing. Last time we talked, she got through all that. But I remember that was a part of the reason that I think that they end up changing their system to, and I don't even know if they sell them anymore because I've been out of the industry for like 15 years. But they talked about like the either tied into your drain tile on the main one, or if you had inside drain tile, they cut a hole through the foundation wall to feed it into that, or they would put a leach field like you're talking about in the back. Yeah.
Yep. I try to go to the leach field as much as possible if there's not existing drain tile. It's an easier, better way. I feel like it's worked for me because a lot of times there is no drain tile or even a sub pump in the inside. Yeah. So I don't want to create more.
And that's the conversation I have with everybody that too. Like, hey, I want to add egress in here, and like, oh, I want cheap ones. This guy's gonna do it for $2,500 or $3,000. I'm like, yeah, they'll do it. And if you're selling it, that's one thing. But I'm gonna tell you right now, one big rain, and if that doesn't sink, that basement is flooding through that window, and nobody expects it. Oh, I'm gonna put a cover on it. Yeah, but here in this part of the country, we have a ton of clay soil.
Yes.
Yeah. Water finds the low point.
And when you're digging out a foundation, you're digging out 3 to 5 feet out from the foundation, and you have a big bucket of clay, and it holds all the water around your foundation like a swimming pool. And that will fill up that egress window in a heartbeat if you have a huge rain. And all that money you put in that basement, because we know you finished it because you put an egress window in, is going to go. You're going to have a fun insurance claim. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yes, I've definitely have seen my fair share of those problems. I've also seen horror stories.
Well, I've never seen horrors in an egress window, but
some of the things I've seen people charge people to do some of these things. I couldn't. I mean, I've seen people put railroad ties around wells thinking they could, put some covers on them. I've seen weird, just like build outs with concrete floating
and covers do help
stuff. Yes, they do help.
Like you should have covers on them. Like,
but I go back to the bare basics of it and start with the quality of the window from day one. So a lot of people don't know, but the window I use is actually 2 steel enforced frames. One frame is for the window and the other frame is for the window hole. And that alone makes it more structurally sound than the windows that everybody else is using on the market. Definitely with the Pella's and all that. Like Pella's got an egress window that you can buy all day long, but there's no structure really in it because it's vinyl.
Why does that structure matter?
Well, the structure matters for a lot of things. It helps, number one, the window actually can be able to be used when it's time being. A lot of people put in the egress window and don't need it because they never open it, you know? And with that being said, you know, with a lot of the cheaper windows that we have on the market, they have so big problems to open. When they finally go to open it, it's stuck. It's jammed. Like the wall is shifted. I mean, another big thing that people do wrong is they take an existing hole where there's a window and they make the hole bigger. Well, what they don't realize is they're compromising the structure because above that hole is a bomb beam or
It's supporting all the way of the home.
Correct.
Yeah.
A supporting header there. And then now they're making the hole bigger and now they just compromised the whole structure and now the window's not opening for them. You know, that is one of the biggest common problems I see a lot when I go to a house, definitely, you know, after the fact.
And I suppose if it's full of water, it'll be really hard to open it if you had to get out of it.
Yes, yes.
I've never done it,
swimming out,
but I just think I'm in a submarine at that point and I'm trying to push the water to open it.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff.
Man, I was not anticipating this going as long as it has, but this has been amazing. Let's talk about, you have short-term rentals, you've done custom home builds.
Yes.
Let's talk about tiny homes for a minute.
Okay. So a couple years ago, we were looking at the COVID. And what me and Ryan noticed at that time was there was a very short, well, we all saw it, the prices jumped. Okay. Yeah. So then when it came down to it, if everybody realizes and you start looking at the market as an investor, you look at the market and what it's doing, and you're looking at the new, if you Googled it today, you'd see it or search for it, that there is less entry homes. Celebrity, D.R. Horton, all them start at 300. And a lot of those are slab on grade houses with no basement. It's 300 grand, you know? So Celebrity used to be the split entry, and Millard used to be $135,000 brand new.
I didn't even know they're still building slab on grades in Nebraska unless they're on water.
So D.R. Horton, when they came to town, they started really doing the slabs. There's lots of slab on grade houses from D.R. Horton. That's where they save their money on their foundations. They look at it as a basement as like an extra cost that they're not trying to put into the dollar. And that's why D.R. Horton's really, successful. They got the national stuff and stuff like that. But now that Celebrity sold all their stuff to D.R. Horton, it's kind of really changed. There's not that split entry that we used to be able to get in Millard for $135,000 brand new. I mean,
there's a big national builder that just came into Omaha that bought land this week.
Lamar.
Yeah.
Lamar is the other one that fights with D.R. Horton. But so when COVID happened, we noticed that all the entry homes were really going bad because it was COVID where we had the first time home buyer program, and that was before COVID.
It was before,
2008, you mean?
Yeah, 2008.
That's where I bought my first rental house.
Yes, I forgot which date it was. But yes, with that
Obama money.
The Obama money.
Yeah,
yes.
$8,000.
Yes, I did take advantage of it. I hope everybody else did too. But that's when we noticed like the entry level homes are not around anymore. So me and Ryan worked on a small modular type of home because we were trying to figure out how to do stick houses because of my experience over the years. Stick framing with residential has always been there too. But what we noticed was time to get to market / time to get to rent. The faster we can get you to get your money back, that people will pay the same or pay a little bit more to be able to get back into their house faster or get into a house faster. And with that being said, that's where the modulars in our Rome would help the community religiously. I mean, we have multifamilies, duplexes, we have fourplexes. I mean, you could build a whole some of the apartments you have right now, Owen, we can build those same ones in modular, and the new construction's taking 3-4 months instead of 2 years.
Yeah.
like it's that fast anymore with the modulars because they're getting built in a factory without all the weather, the cold, the hot.
Also, you don't
rain.
get the water hitting the inside of these properties in most cases. There's the product staying dry because you can build it faster, right?
Yes. So they're building it faster inside. Well, when, a lot of people don't realize when they build their home, the framing stage is usually a month long. I mean, on a bigger house, it's usually a month long. Now, the celebrity homes and those smaller homes, they can get them done in like 2 to 3 weeks. But a $500,000 plus home will usually take a crew of 3 or 4 guys a whole month to do that framing.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, you got all that weather, the opening to it, the rain.
There's no Tyvek on it. It's just open to the elements.
I remember I did watched a whole presentation with a company called Waso Homes.
Okay.
And they actually delivered the whole entire house pretty much in sections. And they were able to build the whole house and put it together with a roof on in one day.
Yes.
And that was pretty amazing to watch. I actually represented a couple of properties as a real estate agent. And to see that process how it come together, and then they're like, yeah, the whole idea here is it's weather free and completely sealed.
Yeah, God, who was that?
Ruben.
Yeah. Yes, Ruben did that. In Carter Lake, actually. There's a house right on 13th Street. He did in Carter Lake.
I was trying to remember the ones I represent. I think we're Gretna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So you adapted. The market dealt you some cards. You said, okay, this is what we're dealing with. Let's pivot. Manufactured homes is the way. Slab on grade is kind of the way things are moving. And let's face it, though. I mean, depending on the climate and the part of the country you're in, like Texas, for example, they have weird soil there, so there's very little basements, is my understanding. And for the most part, I know Texas is a gigantic state, but
they get a lot of tornadoes too.
Yeah, yes. Nebraska and Iowa, the surrounding Midwest, basements are very common here.
Yes.
But so slab on grade is kind of an adjustment that like the general housing population has to make as well. They're like, okay, they have to accept that as, yes, we will buy this product. And now that there's a proof of concept, so you kind of march forward with that. Like, how is that? I guess, how do you see that playing out? Is that still something you see as a viable thing as a builder, as somebody that's involved in, construction?
Yes. The manufactured homes have been around for a long time.
Yep.
People always think it's called, the trailers, but this ain't a trailer. It's not a trailer house. It's built the same or even better because it's got to go down the road. Mm-hmm. I mean, our houses come from Champion Homes out in York. So they're traveling from York to North Omaha is where the lands that we've had available. And, you think about all that moving and the shifting and stuff, like those homes have more structure in them than most people's new construction homes these days.
And they're built in a factory, so the measurements should be, you would think, fairly exact. And, like that helps a lot with, measure twice, cut once type thing. You think that they would get that right in the factory.
Yes. And the quality comes out a lot better. Yes, there's still your punch list and all that stuff once it gets to the lot. But the workings of everything is do a crawl space or do a basement. And then you take these houses off the trailer and crane them off the trailer and then put them on the foundations and then secure them down and then, button up your exterior siding and your punch list, and you got your power connection, and then you got your sewer connection and that kind of stuff. And then you got your punch list to finish out. And so, time frames have revolved a lot. A lot of people ask me about time frames from day one. It takes a little time to get things going. But once you order your house from Champion Homes, it's usually anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks, and we can get it delivered. And then after we set it on the foundation, because as soon as that house is in Omaha, I'm putting it on the foundation within 24 hours. And then we're buttoning it up underneath that. So, I can start foundation today and order a house, and by the time that house is ready to go from the factory here in 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks, depending on what's going on, but usually here in a month. Well, we're ready to rock and roll. And then we got about a month left of everything else. So from time of starting the house to being done and be able to put it back on the market or put it up for rent, we can get them done in 2 months. Realistically,
That's crazy.
Realistically, 2 months.
I can't get a flip done in 2 months.
Well, we've
Ted,
all taken longer.
2 years.
Yes,
For
It's
Ted.
never taken 2 years.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. Gun to your head. If I said, Ben, what is the cheapest house you can possibly build? What does it look like and how much would it cost?
Well, that's where a lot of the misconception is with the modular homes. Like, we can take the same box, if you want to call it a box, it's the easiest way to say it, is that box goes down the street at 12 foot wide, 10 foot wide, and 15 foot wide down the highway.
Mhm.
And you can do them any lengths. So sometimes you get them at 48. You can go bigger than that. So I mean, there's lots of luxury also in these modular homes, and there's also basics in the modular homes. So you can go from any perspective of dollar value. I mean, they got 2,000 square foot plans to 3,500 square foot plans down to 700.
What's the most cost effective one? I think is what you're saying.
There's a cost effective one of just, your normal slip-in tiles, your slip-in tubs, it surrounds. You can go down to a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. You can go down to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lady not that long ago that used modulars down in North Omaha, and she did a 1-bedroom, 1-bath upstairs, and then did a basement, and then finished out the other 1-bedroom, 1-bath, stick framed on site. So you can do.
How much was that though?
I don't know what hers cost her on that, but I mean, we're averaging, if I sold the product to you today, we're averaging about $230 with land, and it's getting about with land. That's with a crawl space, and that is a 3 bedrooms, 2-bath house, about 1,150 square feet. That is about the lower ticket slash.
So a 3.2, and that's going to be 230 brand new construction. 230
to 250, depending on
depending
areas.
what part of town you're in. I mean, that could cover.
Yeah, you just got to find the land, right? I mean, that's the wild card.
Yes,
building in, like if you're in and around Omaha, we get that a lot of you people listening here are not from Omaha, but yeah, in Omaha you can buy a lot in, let's say, Northeast Omaha for what, $25,000.
Northeast Omaha.
Yeah.
See, Owen's from Iowa.
Yeah, that's
you guys
true.
Forget, but no.
Less?
Northeast Omaha, down in the North Omaha area, we can find fill-in lots anywhere between $5 to 15 grand.
Okay.
The land bank has a great program that will help. Free sometimes. Everybody thinks it's always free.
Asterisk.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's still hoops to jump through to do that, and a lot of those lands haven't been used for so long that some people don't know, but there's some sewers missing in North Omaha on land.
What?
So a lot of people don't know, but yes. So sometimes when you're down in the North Omaha area and someone South Omaha, someone in Midtown, you'll see a block that's just like vacant, and you're wondering why nobody's building there. More than likely, there's no utilities there.
Huh.
It's like back in the day, they started building in the city, and they're like, well, this block wasn't selling anymore, so we stopped the sewer. That's kind of what was going on. And then they went back over here and started building again on the other block. And that there's more of that in the Northeast Omaha area than people realize. And
interesting.
If I'm going to do this, I'm going to probably look at something that's like slightly boonies in the development part of town, maybe something between Omaha and Utan, Omaha and Fremont, outside of Bennington. And then do a house like this, and I mean, you're in the path of development and probably do really well, wouldn't you?
Yes.
And be somewhat affordable.
Yes.
And get good rent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you want to kept it as a rental. But anywhere outside of Omaha is great to do. If you can find some land close by, these would be great to do in a smaller lot situation. Like some of the lots we use in the Northeast Omaha is 40 feet wide by 120 feet deep. And that's about
small.
Average. That's, we also use different lots that were skinnier than that.
I was just looking at a lot today for a client, and she's like wanting to buy a couple of vacant lots around her house that I sold her in Valley on the lake with utilities right to it. And the lot was $139,000. and that the house next to it sold for 1.1, but it's a small square lot right on the lake. Like you couldn't put much more than what you're talking about right now on there.
Like at 2,000.
And heck, if you could do a quick little drop and then buy a lot for 150, and then I mean, really, be all in for 3.
That's your next Airbnb.
That'd be great. Actually, that would bank.
There you go, Tom.
I don't know if you can get away with the HOA there. It's pretty strict, but but you could definitely, that could definitely be a minimum $500,000 home.
Oh yeah,
because there's no basements there anyway.
Yeah, I could put a bigger house set like that somewhere else out there at that lake community for you, and without telling you it was built in a factory, you'd never know. You'd never really know. Yeah. I mean, there's some things to look for, but yeah. So with that coming up, that's what I feel like is going to help the Omaha community to get some more entry lower homes in. Currently, there is some grant programs out there. They're just a little bit harder to work with, and they kind of take up the time. And we all know in this industry, when time gets wasted, more money gets wasted.
Time is money.
We had a long conversation about this with Phil Henderson.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, Ben, man, we had no idea where the direction of this conversation was going to go. This was very emotional, and I so appreciate you sharing everything you did. But we do want to get you out of here, and thanks for sharing. Any parting words for anybody catching this episode? What are you interested in right now? What's the best way to reach you? Those kind of things.
Best way to reach me is at 402-301-5921. That's the Safe Exit Egress Windows business phone number. You can reach me on social media under Safe Exit Egress. That's the best way to reach me on modulars or egress windows. With that being said, it's just I appreciate the opportunity to come say hi with you guys and see the world. But everybody knows that you can get hit a million times. It matters if you get back up again, and that's truly what my life has been. Even in the successful times, I've still got stomped on so many times that I don't want to get back up. Last year was a very bad year for us again with some of the business partners that I had, and I didn't want out. I wanted to escape and maybe not be here anymore, but we got to get back up today and find the right people that's around you. People change. There is programs out there. If anybody needs any help, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'll help you through anything you got going on. I'll give you my perspective of what I've done and what I've gone through. Not everybody's story always fits, but it starts with today and how you woke up today or how you finished the day. A lot of people you got to dig deep to do it. The same things you're digging deep to gain in a real estate portfolio is the same thing you're going to have to do to fix your life. And
love that.
Well said.
Yeah. Love that, man.
Ben, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
It's been great to get to know you over the years. It's crazy all the weird connections that we have had.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for letting me be with your guys' community.
Yeah, no, you've been a good part of it. And, I've always seen what you're doing, and now I really see what you're doing for the other, the community of people struggling too. So, it was definitely eye opening. I think that people listening are going to get to know you on a whole nother level, and definitely respect. I think there's gonna be a lot of tears on this podcast when we're listening to, because they're going to feel and, all that emotion you have. But if you're listening to the first time or the 338th time, please give us a review and tell us what you thought about Ben's podcast, and pass this on to somebody who might need to listen to this.
Yes. Just to remind everybody, I am a RIA member sponsor. I give $500 off of projects. Even if you aren't going to go with me, I really would love the opportunity to walk you through what an egress window is consistent to do correctly. That way you can at least go back to everybody else and, try to make sure you're getting what you should be getting. That will help you in the long future and not just a short-term gain to flip it.
Yeah.
I have been seeing people in our industry getting hurt, flipping houses and getting lawsuits down the road because of quality of homes. Just talking to somebody the other day. So they are happening.
Yeah.
City of Omaha is suing people, and people are getting sued too.
Scary.
Think about it that way, but I mean, it is scary to think if you're not doing stuff correctly, you might want to rethink of how you're doing things. It's not always about making as much money as you can. I mean, yes, the margins are very, very shorter than they used to be, but you need to do the property that you're rebuilding needs to be done 100% correctly and no Band-Aids.
Well said.
With that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Dennis Bertrand and Ted Kash, I'm Owen Dashner. You've been listening to Ben Harral on the Kash and Dash Show.